genuine connections. You know what I mean? Where they're not
Right.
just saying hi and going through their P's and Q's. When they say like, "Hey, if you need anything, give me a call," they mean it. And we like to help each other out in this industry. That's pretty neat.
Hi, and welcome to this month's episode of Engineering Greatness, an original podcast series produced by the American Concrete Institute. I'm Keela Lumberdozy. I'm a superintendent with DPR Construction in the Phoenix, Arizona area. And with me today is John Lyle. John, you want to tell us about you?
Yeah, hi, I'm John Lyle. I work for McCarthy Building Companies as a project superintendent, also here in the Phoenix area. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Keela.
So welcome everyone to the podcast. So we'll start discussing, I'll go through a little bit about kind of my background. So I've been in the concrete industry for 7-8 years now. Started right after school, graduated in 2015 from Arizona State University. I moved to Washington, D.C. and did concrete work out there for 6 years. And then just recently, a little over a year ago, moved back to the Phoenix area. So went to school for concrete, and that's all I've really done my whole career. So what about you, John?
Concrete has been the huge focus of mine. I got out of the military after about almost 10 years in the military, active duty Army, and wanted to relate something from the Army to the leadership aspects in the construction industry. So I landed on construction management. Same as you, went to ASU because not only number one in innovation, but they're one of the top construction management programs in the country. So got out of the military, used my GI Bill benefits, and went through ASU. Same as you. Once I ACI and Dr. Ernst got those concrete claws in me, I never left. So the rest is history.
Yeah, mine was kind of similar. I mean, I chose Arizona State because I wanted to get out of the Midwest. Born and raised in a itty bitty town in Ohio. It was 1 mile
Yeah.
long and a half mile wide. So
One
like campus,
stoplight town or what? Like
we had
campus?
two. We had
Okay.
two stoplights
Okay.
in our town. So I wanted to see bigger and better things and had, grew up in poverty. So I got a lot of scholarships for academics
Good for
and
you.
just decided to go for it.
Heck yeah, right on. Why construction management though? What made you go that route?
So my family has always done construction growing up.
Mhm.
So since it's not like allowed now, right? But since I was like 5 years old, I was the one going around picking up nails while my mom and her dad were building houses.
Okay.
So I helped pour my first concrete slab when I was 8.
You were made
So
for this. Yeah.
born and bred. I mean, I love working outside, working with people.
Mhm.
And the people aspect is just so amazing because you see people from all walks of life and you get to produce something. Like
Mhm.
one of my favorite jobs that I go back to is my first job out of college. It's the Museum of the Bible. So it's like a
Oh,
once in a lifetime thing that will never ever be built again. And I
yeah.
got to take my dad.
All right. And then
So
point them
that's
around like, look, I poured that, I did that. What a
And
cool
I'm showing
feeling
him
for your dad.
pictures like,
Yeah.
here's what it looked like in the snow when it was 10 degrees and we were trying to warm up the deck so we can pour concrete. Oh, there's
Yeah.
stairs on this now. This is what it looked like before the seating and the steps, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah. That's awesome. So that was one of your first ones out of college?
It was my
Okay.
very first job.
See, same as me. My first internship was with Suntech Concrete, and I did the ASU Stadium, and that was before the degree program required a an internship, but talking to Dr. Ernst, I knew I had to just get out there and check it out. I worked as a laborer with them, pounding nails, pounding steaks, punking up tools, all that kind of stuff. And I just loved it, and especially to go similar, like you said, go to a game and be like, hey, poured that, did that, or just look around the versatility of concrete and its applications everywhere. Just I had no idea. Did you? Like I never really had the thought into it like I do now. Now after all my ACI experience and ASU experience and construction experience in general, you just look at concrete different, huh?
Mine was the same. I mean, my first internship was similar to yours. I
Mm-hmm.
was a laborer. I had to fight for it to let me be out in the field they wanted me in estimating, and I told them no. Uh, so I got tools, I got a bag, and I did layout and was a
Mm-hmm.
laborer. I mucked and finished and all those things too. But the first job that I did, it was a hospital expansion in Columbus, Ohio, as my internship. And there was only one right angle in the entire building. There was
Oh
only
wow.
one corner. Everything else was radiused. So to start my layout experience on something like that, it was wild.
Baptism by
And
fire, yeah.
100%. And we were on the 15th floor with no lift. So they said, hey, go carry the legs all the way up first
Holy
day.
moly. Yeah.
So, but I mean, that it's looking back on it, like, yes, it was hard, but it made me the superintendent that I am now, right? I have so much more respect for the work and for the people performing the work. That's like, yeah, I can do that. And yes, I know how hard it is.
Mm-hmm.
But
Absolutely.
that goes
That
back
is,
to the versatility thing.
yeah, yeah, and starting right there at the lowest level, I think there's a lot to be said about that. I think that's important in an internship. But to take it back to school and how you got the interest too. Did was it was for me, was it your involvement in ACI that sparked your passion for concrete? Or
It
how did that
definitely it
uh-huh.
definitely helped in like fueling that fire. But
Mhm.
funny enough, I started college as a chemical engineer.
Oh, well, that's
That
concrete.
that was the marriage that happened. Was I loved chemistry. Like,
Yeah,
I nerded out in the
yeah,
first concrete class that was like the silica and the water and the exothermic
yeah.
reaction and that stuff. And I was like, this is it. This is what I love. But I went through my first class for like intro to chemical engineering
Mm,
and got to know the professor and some of the people. And I was like, I don't really fit in with these people. My personality doesn't fit. And I realized that my career would have been mostly doing lab work and research.
mhm.
And that just like wasn't my style. I
Right.
needed to be outside, boots on the ground. And I'm sure you
Mhm.
felt the same.
Well, like you said, construction as a whole, but particularly the concrete industry, in my mind, it was a good way to feed those desires, like we're talked about, that are a little bit not sure really how to word this other than it feeds your my nerd desires out elsewhere. You know what I mean? And we're able to relate that to something to build really cool when you know the composition of the concrete and why it's going to act the way it's going to. It's a better understanding of it, and it makes me enjoy it that much more. But construction in general, I can relate that back to my military experience, the leading people out in the field and physically building something with them. There's a lot of pride behind that you can't get anywhere else. But
That's true too. And seeing like the craft actually like really take pride and take ownership in the product that they're producing, and they get the
mhm,
same fulfillment that we do as leaders of being able to
mhm.
go back and show their families, hey, I helped build this.
Yeah, yeah. How many Shoot, between the two of us, we did at least every ACI student competition, probably like twice, huh? We did.
Probably. I
Yeah.
know I repeated one.
It was, I like the ACI student competitions because I do feel that they start to breed that team mentality if it's not really fixed yet, with the college students. What they do with the competitions is just awesome. There's so much, just enough that just enough guidance for them to do okay, but leaving it so open, it's really neat to see what some of these people have come up with in the ones that I've gone to. What was your favorite?
My favorite was actually the mortar workability
Really?
competition.
Okay.
That one was legit my favorite because we spent hours and hours at the lab just mixing and trying and mixing
That
and
was your
trying.
thing.
And I'd be like nerding out over admixtures, like, let's do 2 more drops of super P and let's, you know.
Yeah,
That one
dude.
was my favorite. What about
Right
you?
on. I think I liked permeability. I like the
Oh,
permeable concrete. I thought that one was pretty neat. But all of them, we had a blast with all of them, and I would spend hours and hours at the lab by myself, just messing with stuff. It's pretty cool stuff. Did you captain some teams or what?
yeah, it was I think starting my may have been spring of my sophomore year. I
Hmm.
started captaining, which was like early comparatively. What year did you start captaining?
Oh shoot, I Dr. Ernzen, he got me in, and I was hooked as soon as he did. In Con 100, he noticed my military experience, started talking to me, and we started right then. He didn't have a president for the chapter, and we started going right there. That just seems like a lifetime ago already. We
Right?
did so much. Yeah. But I did them all 4 years that I was there. It was really cool. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I did mine for 3 because I spent my first sad semester as a chemi and then switched over my second semester of freshman year.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
so
Well, it
I
didn't take
didn't
you
really
long.
know. I knew fast.
Yeah.
And Dr. Ernson was a big part of it. I met him at an Advancing Women in Construction
Uh-huh.
outing. Like one of the
Mhm.
girls in the dorm invited me to go, and that's how I met him. And that it was like next semester. I was in the CIM 106 and COM
Nice.
100. I was
Yeah.
like, that's it. That's all she wrote.
Yeah. That's too funny. What what did I know, aside ASU and the awesome professors that we've had, ACI too has done wonders for my career with the networking, going to World of Concrete, with the local chapter. Um, shoot, I'm just gonna plant that seed and let's talk about that for a minute because there's so much to
Yeah.
say about the good stuff ACI does.
Yeah, I mean, I some of my best experiences from college was at ACI conventions or at
Hmm.
ACI events. And like a nice little plug is every all but one of my internships I found at an ACI conference.
There you go.
And through ACI, even my first professional job out of college, it was in Washington, DC, spring of 2015.
Uh-huh.
And Clark, the company that I worked for, they had a booth just kind of set up. And I went over and I had a resume. I'm like the senior trying to find a job, right? I'm like, hi, what do? You do concrete? That's cool. Here's my resume. And
Yeah.
I got a job. And I would
Nice.
not have even known that they existed had I not been involved in ACI because they were an East Coast company or a California company.
Yeah.
And they only self-perform concrete in the DC metro area. So
Hmm.
I would have never known.
No. Yeah, it really helps bring the national aspect to it, huh? When you go to a convention like that, sitting in some of those board meetings and stuff like that. I'm sure Dr. Ernzen made us all go to them, and I'm glad he did. Those are super neat. I got a fellowship through ACI as well, and that
Oh, did
was,
you?
yeah, that was the most lucrative scholarship that I got, and it came with mentorship. They were talking to me, and the process of that fellowship was great, bringing us in for the interviews. I don't typically get that nervous, and I got nervous before that one, man. I really wanted to do well. Um, had you gone? Did they do the young professionals mixer when you were a part of ACI? I know
I think
it was relatively new.
I think they were starting it once I started professional career, and I took like a year off of being super involved at the national level, like
Uh-huh.
right out of school, but I got really involved at the local level.
Ah,
So, did you go to some of the young professional mixers as a student?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And they're starting to do that just for the students, mixers for that, because I guess the interest has grown, and those are great. Those are a great way to get people out of their shell and get those conversations started. It's really cool. It's cool to see what ACI's done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I still talk to people that I met as a sophomore. Like there was one, it's kind of a short story, but there was a gentleman who worked for Euclid that
Mm-hmm.
was like a friend of Dr. Ernzen's. I met as a sophomore, went through my college career, moved to DC, found out that that guy worked in the New York, DC area. Like he was one of the main people that ran that region. And I get
Mm-hmm.
out there and he reached out to me and was like, hey, I remember you. Welcome to DC. And so it was like a person that I met in college professionally became a super great friend of mine over the years, and we still keep in touch. But
Oh,
it was like
cool.
that touch point that I had built as a student that I used in my professional life, and now he's a really great friend of mine. But he got me
That's
involved in ACI at a national level and a lot of things, and at the local level, and just
okay.
the mentorship is really amazing. Like, did you kind of develop some of those similar relationships with people there?
I don't have one quite as good as that, but yeah, I think that I've made absolutely lifelong mentors and friends out at those things. I could go through a list of names from just the local chapter of people that still, um, I guess a really good example that I have for that of the benefits of the connections that you make is the president of the chapter being, one of the representatives for an admixture company, and we were having an issue with the concrete and some consolidation, and I gave him a call directly, and he answered and he helped walk us through it. I guess, well, a shameless plug is Jason Savage through Euclid, and we're like, hey, we're having this problem, what can we do? And he answered me right away, and came right out on site and helped us with a beam issue that we were having, where we had some exposed post tension cable from a pour. So it's, you never know how valuable those connections are until you get to use them, right? Like,
Until you're in the fire.
yeah, yeah, and it's just, it's really cool to be presented with that opportunity, and I think yours is a good example too of just the type of people, good people, that it's not genuine connections. You know what I mean? Where they're not
Right.
just saying hi and going through their P's and Q's. When they say like, "Hey, if you need anything, give me a call," they mean it. And we like to help each other out in this industry. That's pretty neat.
That's one thing that I really love about it too is like construction as a whole is a relatively tight knit community
Right.
of workers and companies, right? But once you get down to our specialty of just concrete work,
Yeah.
like the world shrinks so substantially that you can go from like I did. I went from Arizona to Washington, DC, did work in Baltimore, did work on a bunch of military bases, and it was all people that I like knew, even though I haven't been there that long. Like you build those connections with people, and there was always somebody I could call up. Like
Yeah.
I can still call up people in Arizona and say, hey, I have this weird problem. Can you help? Do you have any ideas?
Right. Right. And I don't think a podcast about ACI with you and I would be complete without mentioning Miss Beth Britt. She has been great to students, bringing them in. She does so much for everyone. It's overwhelming what she does for student development, and
Yeah.
not even as faculty, but just through ACI. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I mean, Beth, it was funny this last convention because we hadn't really seen each other much since I moved back to Phoenix area. So we met up and got dinner at the convention, and it was like just reminiscing, right? Because she knew me 10 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And so she saw me as like the young, shy, don't really know what I'm doing with my life, Keela,
I
as a
don't know that,
sophomore.
Keela.
No, a lot of people don't, but Beth did. Beth knew that I don't know what I'm doing. I'm super stressed out. I'm freaking out about this competition. What are we gonna do? And now it's like the cool, calm, collected, like got my stuff together, Keela, right? And we got to reminisce and kind of reflect on that growth. And seeing it from her perspective was really, really cool. And as like a mentor now, starting to mentor young people to come up through ASU and going to competitions and preparing them for competitions. It's now I can see it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is a really fulfilling experience. Like I understand why mentors did what they did and
Yeah.
why they helped, and but I also understand how taxing it can be and how difficult it is to
Mm-hmm.
find the time to because I was really involved with University of Maryland and getting them going and going to competitions. So I can remember talking to my boyfriend, now fiance, like, hey, I'm gonna be late. I gotta go to Maryland's concrete lab and like review their mixed designs. And I get there and it was just super cool. And I'm taking all these pictures for them and giving them
Yeah.
advice. Like now the mentee has become the mentor. And I think that's a really cool experience, right? And I'm
Yeah.
sure you've had a similar experience now working with the students again too, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I wonder if that is as predominant in other fields or other school programs. I guess I don't know well enough, but I can't imagine that it's this good everywhere, because they just seem to take care of the promising young individuals in the industry very well. It's amazing. It's great stuff.
Yeah, I
Um,
can remember coming out of school, talking with some of my friends who were still chemies or in other parts of the engineering community, and I was like, "Yeah,
mhm.
I got an internship. What are you doing this summer?" And they're like, "I'm gonna work at McDonald's for the summer." And I'm like, you know what I mean? It's like such a
Absolutely.
they really grab you early in your college
Hmm.
career, and universities and just the industry really set you up for success so you can thrive.
Yeah, yeah. It's also cool the local chapter getting so involved, with the students. Like I know when I took over as president of the ASU student chapter, they would bring us to meetings with the board members of the state chapter, and a charity came up that they were trying to do, and it was building ramps for disabled veterans. And as a veteran myself, I loved it and jumped on it. And with ACI's help and the student chapter, we ended up getting hands on the material for dozens and dozens of students, and we built over 30 ramps while I was in school out for disabled veterans. It was
That's
really,
super impressive.
it was. And they ACI was our go-to for getting the concrete donated, getting a professional superintendent or something like that out there for that. um just such a good director of all the different people trying to get stuff done. It's been really cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
like when you were a student, did you find it challenging to kind of balance the the coursework and the ACI involvement and just life in general? I know I did.
A little bit, admittingly, I was used to a little bit of hectic stuff, coming from where I did, but it's always a challenge. But when you get to do stuff like that, when you get to go do charities and student competitions and stuff like that, it didn't seem much like work. You know what I mean? It was really neat. Did you were able to go to World of Concrete too, right?
Yeah, I can't remember if I went once or if I went twice,
Yeah,
but
I went all 4 years. I loved that place, man. I freaking loved that place. That was a really cool experience. Right.
yeah, there was just so many different things to see and new technology and new formwork systems, like especially, not really knowing like the difference between Doka and Perry when you're a student. And to
Right.
go out and actually like put your eyes on the material and talk to the reps and physically be able to see it, right?
Yeah.
It gave you a lot more real life experience of what you're gonna see in the real world.
Right. Right. It's pretty neat stuff. It's fun to talk to someone like you that where we have all this different experience, but yet so similar. You know what I mean? And where we get to tell each other stories that not a lot of people would understand,
Right?
outside the industry. But man, I think joining the ACI student chapter was probably one of the biggest and best decisions of my student career. I think just as much as the textbooks, it taught me so much about how the industry works, the concrete material, and kind of gave me the opportunity to go nuts with that. Right?
Oh yeah, 100% agreed. I mean, I can remember going to my first like local ACI lunch,
Hmm.
and I was like, how do I talk to these people? Like all
Hmm.
these people are people that could hire me. How do I talk to them and not act a fool, right?
And
So
then they talk to you.
yeah, and it was like a normal, casual conversation, and I got over that student industry division. It was like, oh, these are all just people with
Yeah.
jobs and lives, and they just love what they do. And it kind of helped me through the nerves of things. And like, I never had trouble with public speaking, right, growing up, but going through, because I was president for the student chapter for 3 years.
Hmm.
So being able to get up in front of people and present things at like a board meeting and at these events, it really, especially for people that have trouble with that and need to grow that skill and learn that skill, being involved with the chapter
Hmm.
can definitely give you that experience and exposure that, yes, we all take a comms class and have to do a presentation on something when you're in school. Most of us do, but to do it day in, day out it takes talent and it takes practice.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of students that I worked with that would come up and they would be like, can I ask you a question? Like when I would go to their labs and they were like walking on eggshells, like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So it gave us that opportunity to kind of break the ice and let them get comfortable. So
Yeah.
the mentor mentee type of transition. So I love being involved and I love helping, and I'm involved in a couple of committees as well.
That's
I
right.
don't
You
know if
are.
you are.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I haven't made it there yet. That's very respectable. That's awesome that you do that.
That'll be next for you.
I don't know. Maybe stay tuned for next episode for that.
Right?
I don't know. Keela, this was so nice getting to know you a little bit better like this. This was really cool. Thank you. Thank you for having me. So
Yeah, absolutely. I really enjoyed this conversation
yeah,
and
me too.
looking forward to the next one.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thanks everyone again for joining us. And thank you to everyone for listening for this month's episode of Engineering Greatness. Join us each month as ACI brings together pairs of young professionals in the concrete industry to engage in intimate conversation about their life and work. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And for more information on the American Concrete Institute, visit us on our website at concrete.org. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Keela.
Thanks, Sean.